Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session, ValueTrack for Personalized Medicine and Treatment. Welcome, because it's an interesting day again. Yesterday, we already had a great session, ValueTrack People Flows, and what we see is that there are a lot of crossovers with regards to innovative plans, innovative solutions. So what we see is that multi-stakeholder collaborations are key to realize our future for health. First of all, a few practical notes. We will be broadcasting this via YouTube. You can definitely make usage of the chat function that is in Zoom. Anything I forgot so far? No. It's only those two. And I'll give you a little bit of an insight on what we're focusing on here. The ValueTrack is there to support collective development focused on innovative solutions, focused on sustainable innovation. The way these networks, ValueTrack networks, get together is that we zoom into where the need and the heat is of all these stakeholders to find market breakthroughs. We then ask the stakeholders, do we all agree that we want to work on this together? And we define a call to action. Today is like a little bit of speed dating. Let's get to know each other. Let's see what we can do together to find these market breakthroughs. From here, we will work towards October, where a bigger event is going to take place in the RAI in Amsterdam, where we will focus on the real EU Entrepreneurship Summit in parallel to the CES Unveiled, which is one of the biggest events focused on innovation, entrepreneurs, held in Vegas, and investors will be there, government will be there. So there's a big thing going on, but what we'll do is try to be practical. Where can we really focus on concrete activities? So obviously, personalized medicine and treatment is an area where a lot of things are happening. And there are so many technologies out there, but they not always can find their way to market because the market isn't ready to adopt or adapt. And this is what we're focusing on. So let me introduce you someone who's really into this innovative combinatoric innovation and who understands the world of health based on his role as a chairman to the Personalized Healthcare Catalyst. Paul Isco, welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, and very nice to be in the show today. And you are referring to the ValueTrack. Actually, behind me, in my background, is a map of Europe, as you can see. But what you can't see on this map are the borders. And that's exactly what we are trying to achieve with the ValueTrack methodology, and what I try to achieve with combinatoric innovation is remove borders, remove boundaries. Boundaries between people, boundaries between organizations, boundaries between disciplines. And why do we do that? Because the topic we're talking about today, which is personalized healthcare and healthcare in general, is in a very complex area. It means that we are dealing with very many stakeholders, patients, health professionals, management, government, technology, science, and so many things are happening, and there are so many opportunities. You mentioned entrepreneurs. I would like to recall the definition of entrepreneur according to the European Union. That's an attitude. Entrepreneurship is an attitude of people who are seeing opportunities and are able to exploit previously unexploited opportunities. And that's what we're looking at today. What we're talking about is about opportunities. And indeed, some of them are unexploited. And that's because, well, on the one hand, they're new. On the other hand, in this complex changing system, it's always a challenge to really to benefit from all these fantastic things that are being developed. And we need each other to make it happen. So that's why we need to remove all boundaries between people, between countries, organizations, disciplines. And that's exactly why I like this ValueTrack methodology so much, because you call that speed dating test, and that's what it is. It is not just dating, bringing people together, but it is bringing great ideas together. It is bringing competences together. It is bringing resources together. And in this togetherness, in this complete picture, there is the solution for the complex problem, which is entrepreneurship in a complex system, in a complex world. So I think that if you are an entrepreneur and you have developed fantastic new concept, it can be a new algorithm, it can be a new product, a new service, can be a machine. All of you know that the development of this is point one, but the most important thing actually to create value out of it is to scale up, is to implement, to commercialize. And for that, you need different skills, different competences, different resources. And that exactly is what I think is needed and what's being discussed today. How do we allow these entrepreneurs, these great ideas, to get access to all those resources, money, time, networks, knowledge, in order to, at the end of the day, realize the potential of these inventions, to exploit the opportunities. So that's just what we talk about today, and I'm very much looking forward to the various sessions, especially of course the session about personalized healthcare, because that's something I'm also involved in. But yesterday we also had good sessions, and I think I talked with some people afterwards, and they were very enthusiastic about the quality of the networks, the energy that was in the room, the ideas that were available. So I think this is a very good setting for people to realize ambitions for themselves, for the organizations, for society. As we always call this, to on one hand identify this collective value case, on the other hand work towards the realization of that collective value case. So I very much look forward to today. And now, again, my name is Paul Isco, and I'm very much honored that I'm part of this session.
Thank you so much, Paul. So indeed, what we're talking about entrepreneurs, because it's the European Entrepreneur Summit, but it's really indeed about entrepreneurship. And that means that we're all together to create this implementation chain of people that can support these implementations. And somebody who's been involved in this world, who understands the collective value case for personalized medicine and treatment, and who understands the complexity of this is Susanna Vars. Susanna, more than welcome. Thank you so much for joining up. And hopefully we can unmute you. Super. Oscar. I'll check for a second. Sorry for this. Yeah. Technology. Yoo-hoo.
Isn't it working?
Well, we can hear you, but it's kind of dark at your place.
Can you give me 1 second?
Of course. We've got time, no rush. The weather is nice.
All right. Yes, sorry, technology, indeed.
Hey, Suzanne.
Hi.
Good morning. Welcome. I don't know if you just heard our introduction with regards to your role and your passion. And I would like to give you the word to introduce yourself, because I know you're much better at that than I am. So go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I'm super pleased to be here today. My name is Susanna Vars, and my big passion and where I decided to commit my life to is to solve the global access to healthcare problem. I'm born and raised in a medical family, and since I was young, I've been confronted with stories of parents with young children, people in the 30s, 40s who searching for a cure, and or lost someone due to a lack of access to the right medical care. And that just really touched me. And all my life, I've actually been searching for answers to help, to solve, to get the pieces of the puzzle together. So the rest of my life, I have first set up research at the Harvard Stem Cell Institute. I've worked at the World Health Organization in Geneva, set up research at Peking University, traveled around the world a lot, went to remote places. And then I realized, like, where is true innovation happening in the world? In the meantime, I still had this vision of how can we make personalized healthcare accessible and affordable for every human on the planet. So I did a few things. I first went back to the Netherlands to start my foundation, the Human Genome Foundation, which is an international lobby organization to provide patients access to their medical data. I started my own medtech startup, Social Genomics, to build an artificial intelligence solution to match similar cancer patients to global research. During this journey, because that's how I see it, it's not that we work in a company or for something or on a startup. No, it's a journey we're all in together. And I realized how extremely difficult it is to work in healthcare by yourself as an innovator. And at some time, that was also why Siemens Healthineers, the global leader in medtech, came to me and they said, like, would you like to work for us to lead the precision medicine and be part of a global team of 70,000 people over 70 countries in the world? So I now do both. I know both perspectives, both from the innovator as working from the industry. And there are a few things I would really like to discuss with you today, to share. And that is, again, that I'm super happy that we are here together. I'm happy because healthcare is a team sport. And why is it a team sport? Because it's so complex. We have created all subspecialties. We have subspecialties within the disciplines of the healthcare professionals, but also across the different industries. It's simply too huge to do everything yourself. So that requires team sport. And it requires that we together both go very deep with what we do and at the same time work closely together because we need each other. And there are three things I want to share, which I think are super important. And the first thing is that I think it's super exciting to think about that science and technology are global, but the way we have employed the healthcare systems are very local. So we have all the different healthcare systems in the world, and we do it just a little bit different. And that is between countries, but you see this already within a country as well. For example, the protocols, how hospitals give access to which diagnostics, which treatments. That's again why a day as today is super important, because we're now all here together because we need to talk about all these differences. Secondly, how do we define impact? We can think about this from our own perspective, but I think if we talk healthcare, the topic that truly matters is the question, how can we keep people healthy? And how can we keep people out of the healthcare system as long as possible? And especially, how can we help the underserved people here within our own country, but think also about half of the world who still does not have access to healthcare at all. And this again requires team sport. And then the third point is digitization. And digitization is, I believe, the big enabler for innovation. It's what drives innovation. It's what connects all of us. It's what connects the world. And with this, we can share experiences. We can tap into the collective knowledge to learn, to help each other rise, and to accelerate instead of compete, and all trying to find the answers ourselves. So this all requires team sport and have all stakeholders together, but it also requires from all of us that we put in effort to shape the right conditions to make those innovations happen. And I think that's quite a big challenge that we face today. Why we are here? How do we get breakthrough innovations faster in the hands of people, of more people? And how can we help each other instead of making a battle, help each other rise? And this is, I think, not only innovation as very essential, as an add-on, as something a luxury. No, I see innovation as an essential part of improving our healthcare systems, to drive this innovation and to take away the huge burden that we face, because that is what we have. We have an increasing number of patients who need help. We have a reduced number of healthcare professionals. We have fewer resources. Now, and then to conclude, what do we as a company, for example, bring on the table? And what we like to talk about further is, I think, it's the beauty of a global company like ours, that we provide a global network with knowledge and experience of more than 70,000 people, 70 countries, where you can tap in and pick basically the brains of people with all our backgrounds. And that is, I think, a beauty, how we can help as a company in the industry to work as a transmitter, to help people in the field accelerate. And we have multiple platforms. We have a kind of Spotify for healthcare professionals, where we connect them worldwide. We have a thought leadership platform where we work with hospital CEOs worldwide. We have think tank innovations. We work with research institutes. So I'm personally super committed to connect with all of you, to talk further and see what we can do. And as Siemens, we're happy to open up our network and share the knowledge and resources we have to make a difference.
Sounds brilliant, Suzanne, because obviously we're here now in Leiden. Physically, we know we have an international network, all zooming in, to call it like that, today. So indeed, let's start with some concrete calls, because like you said, we've got this huge network. And as an entrepreneur, it's sometimes really hard to focus on your business development while you're doing your real job, right? Yes. And I still remember, and this is why I'm interested as well, I'm definitely not a health expert myself. Obviously, focusing on the value track means that I want to deliver something back to the world. Yeah. And I never forget that in one of our first sessions, there was a story by one of a lady, and she said, I was so happy when I heard that I was pregnant. And 2 weeks later, I got this terrible news that I had breast cancer, and I had to stop my pregnancy because I was going to get chemotherapy. And obviously there was no choice, losing 2 lives or, at least saving 1. And she said, I didn't have an option. And then one of the Dutch startups who actually went to the States because there wasn't a way to implement their solution here in Europe due to regulations, they actually made sure that they could deliver a treatment which was personalized, offering her the opportunity to still get the chemotherapy, but keep the baby. And then she said, now I'm a healthy mother with a healthy baby in my arms. And it shows that all around the world, people have this need. So the urgency is there. And what we need to focus on is that it would be a waste, not just for health solutions for the patients, but also the intellectual capital and the social capital, the societal capital involved with all these innovations. And we should take care of that as well. What do we do with our AI knowledge that is exponential, looking at all these new technologies going on? And someone who knows everything about that, how important it is to indeed be able to go to market, provide your solutions to patients, make sure you expand your solution, not just doing the technical thing, but broaden in line with the digital innovation going on. This is Katinka de Korte. Can I please ask you to join me and explain a little bit more what you do with Dear Health?
Yeah, well, I'm the general manager of Dear Health for Europe, and that means that I'm together with our engineers and our business development team and customer success team working on positioning our innovation in clinical care, which, talking about regulation, is complex. Yes, we can do it. And yes, we did make the right decisions from the start. In 2019, we did start our headquarters in Amsterdam. The concept of Dear Health already was validated and developed in UCLA in US, in Los Angeles. And our founder, Daniel Holmes, he is a Dutch professor, but moved to UCLA. He did develop over 7 years' time the Dear Health concept. And when he was trying to spin it off out of UCLA, it was kind of magic how the team that we currently did build, the core team, did come together with me as the entrepreneur to set up the organization, with engineers jumping on board, being fanatic on building this in a new tech environment and making this happen, and doctors and medical experts that are needed to really make the translation of the clinical care pathways that we for over 100 years already are working with, to make that into software, and all of that evidence-based, because you don't want to end up in a situation that you do have like the magic solution, but in the basics you did something too quickly, not well thought through enough, and that you can just throw it away.
So you managed.
That it's a waste. So yes, we managed. So we are very proud that we can announce that we are CE MDR certified, which means that we comply with the latest version of the European standards and regulation on patient safety and the security of our software.
And that's a big hurdle, right? Because from what I've heard from entrepreneurs, this is also like a big investment with regards to time, energy, and getting yourself through this process. So it's a plus for Dear Health that you've got it, because that means you can open up and maybe even work with other entrepreneurs that can be linked to Dear Health.
Yeah.
And in that sense, you also mentioned to me that you have set up like a big multi-stakeholder network around you.
Yeah, so let's first start with the essence of what Dear Health is, and then I will move immediately to the multi-stakeholder approach that we use to grow as fast as we could. So our core is that we do have a patient app that generates the patient data, the real world data. This app, now we are using our own app, but we are looking for partners that we can use their app, because we do not believe we will be the best app developer over time.
Yeah.
So for now, because we need the full product certified and live in our hospitals, we do have the Dear Health app, but we are looking for partners that we can team with to make sure that we can focus on our core, which is the AI driven care pathway software. And so the patient data is the one input that we use. The other input is the evidence that is in the clinical area, where we are integrating into the electronic medical record of the patient. All of this, of course, is GDPR relevant, and there we do need to have the right data processing agreements in place, etc. All of that is part of the regulation that we really need to understand, and that's also one of my core things that are linked to also to my role. If we use the clinical data and the data that is coming out of the patient themselves, and we link that to our data model that is developed by medical experts based on the global guidelines that are linked to a specific indication, we make it possible that for every indication you can think of, we can generate a personalized care pathway. But it's not a black box. because this is where people really think, oh, AI in clinical care, that is really scary, but now software is going to tell me what is best for me. No, it's decision support for medical teams that always will stay responsible. So we need the collaboration, and this is the first stakeholder that we are depending on. It's the medical teams. It does not have to be a specific hospital, but medical teams that can validate and can accept the decision support. And as the moment they do, the patient has a 12-month overview of the personalized care pathway and is in control of their own treatment and know what exactly is going to happen.
It sounds interesting, though it is speed dating. So I have to stop you here. What we do is, like I said, it's a trigger, right? And it's an ongoing process. It's not just this momentum, it's towards October. So what we're going to do as well is we'll set up a podcast with you where we have a little bit more time and you can explain as well more about your network. We will publish what it looks like, who you're looking for. So it's definitely a call to action that we're going to follow up on because we already had questions from the audience as well. How do you look at GDPR for personalized health? I think this is one of the big things where you've proven that you got through it. You're open to collaborate with other entrepreneurs to deliver a full integrated solution to market that has big international potential if, like you said, we collaborate.
Definitely,
so
and the GDPR is one of the parts of being MDR certified and partnering with MDR compliant software developers as we are makes it for other partners easy. Because we guarantee the outcome, the compliant outcome. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And maybe we'll get back to you later because I know there's more things going on here. Unfortunately, it's just a speed date because next time I'll date you again. Looking for a longer relation between all these stakeholders. One of the things that Katinka mentioned about MDR, and we can have a slide here. Sorry, this is funny because you can't see Dave, but he's doing the technical stuff and he just wanted to walk away to go to his camera. And then suddenly I said, where is the slide? So he had to rush back, which was funny for us, but for you guys, you couldn't see it. One further, please. Yes, and there will be another one after this. So in 1 second, because this is just the title, Bottleneck Program, Health Tech Startups and Scale-Ups. Arjen Goudsblom is the one who followed up on this, who actually did the investigation. And what we've seen, and that's in the next slide, is that 39%, and maybe we can't zoom in, it's fine. But that's all market for medical devices. So 39% of all our startups are focused on medical devices. And this is the picture in the Netherlands, but obviously, trust me, there must be a copy-paste scenario where other countries face a similar situation. So talking about waste, if we don't collaborate to make sure these market breakthroughs are going to happen, then we're going to lose all these brilliant opportunities to improve our healthcare. And what was nice is that you see that in other scenarios, for example, in the financial services market, they've been dealing with situations where there's a lot of regulations going in place. And it's very tough for the individual to figure out what regulation is related to my dossier, to my situation, to my solution. So this is where I'd like to introduce to you Alex Poole. Alex, can you share with us why this crossover, idea came from, where it came from, and what we could do with regards to a call to action to make sure that we come up with good plans?
Yes, of course. And thank you for having me here today. And good morning to everyone. Well, my name is Alex Poole, and I'm one of the founders of Ruler. And Ruler is a solution for the financial services industry at the moment, where we've brought the regulations to a more or a less complex structure for individuals to see what they need to cope with. And what we've done in Ruler is the financial services industry is a highly regulated market, just as the healthcare industry is. And what we did is putting in our software all the regulations that is and legislation that is relevant, and that's a lot. It's European, it's different jurisdictions that have different legislation, and we've broken that down into themes and subjects, which makes it more less complex to cope with. And what we did as well is next to the themes and subjects is every publication that is done, and that's on a daily basis, every publication that is done is brought into the system. It is analyzed and is published to the people for whom it is relevant to. So you see on a daily basis what is published and what is relevant for you in your situation. Not all the publications that are published on a day. And what we've also did is looking forward to 3 to 4 years, what is coming up to the market and what is relevant to whom in that respect. And that makes it easier to adapt to upcoming regulation, but also to what is relevant for you today. And especially in markets where you see a lot of innovation, this is a tool that shows you what will be the hurdles you have to take in trying to find a new product or a new solution. And that helps to speed up innovation. And what we would like to do in the healthcare industry, for example, in the MDR is a hurdle that you have to come across, is to host a workshop how we can cope with this issue for this industry, using Ruler, our experience with that in the financial market, and to make this regulation less complex and to show you what you need to do in developing new products or new solutions. By doing this, we also create a platform for regulators, policymakers, to show that new initiatives, innovation, is struggling with regulation because it doesn't fit. Regulations is always lagging innovation. So we think with this solution, we can help innovation in the industry to show what will be the burdens, to show what is coming up and to adapt to that in an early stage. But we can also go back to regulators and policymakers to say, well, this is the innovation in the industry. These are the burdens they struggle with. And perhaps there is a need for adoption or adoption for new regulation to lower that burden or to come over that burden.
Well, if you look at this, is this something where which you recognize within the PHC Catalyst network? Is there's a win for 2 type of stakeholders, or maybe even 3?
Yes, well, it's a very important topic, and not just for the Catalyst, but also it has been stated that the frameworks are lagging the developments in science. And that's exactly also what we discussed, not just in the Catalyst, but there's also a new development in the Dutch healthcare sector called the Sandbox, where regulators are working together with innovators from the sector to help them deal with that lagging legislation. It means that sometimes actual legislation is something inherited by definition from the past. And it's like guidelines, best practices, protocols. These are all based on best insights in the past. And that is also true for legislation. So this Sandbox is also a quite interesting concept for people to refer to. And that has been copied directly from financial services. I remember when I was still head of ABN AMRO Bank, I hosted the first Bitcoin conference. And then the authorities approached me and said, listen, Paul, a decent bank is not dealing with Bitcoin. And my question was, since when is AMN AMRO a decent bank? But that was not the right answer. And actually, the basic remark was, yeah, but listen, this is too far for us to deal with. And then a few months later, came back to us and said, what was the outcome? And we're a few months later said, well, we're going to experiment ourselves. And then this financial sandbox emerged. And that has now directly been copied into the healthcare sector. So this is being dealt with. And I think that's also a matter of collaboration, coming back to the theme of today, is people come together, they share also their frustrations, they share their challenges with the system. And now we talk about legal, but it can also be about payment systems, payment schemes. It can be data problems, sharing of data, interoperability of data. So we have to look at the common themes, the common challenges that we see as innovators. And that, I think, is also why this platform is so good. If we bring all these people together, we will see the common challenges and we can address them. Okay, so our call to action for now would be to, close, is that the right word? The gap, or to make it smaller, that's not a word.
Closing the gap, shrink
the gap between policymakers and entrepreneurs. And it's interesting because I just got a signal that even for investors, it would be interesting as well. So I think because obviously looking at big investments that need to take place in order to fuel these innovations is important too. So thank you very much. Your call to action and your offer to host a workshop is definitely something that we're looking for towards October. So we're looking forward to actually expand the network, make sure we got a minimum viable product. Would be nice. Yeah, this is where Can I say one more thing, please? And because that's what I also like about also the story that just has been told. It is, I said, entrepreneurship is about an attitude. And what I see, and which is very important, I see now all around with the different stakeholders, including the government, a new attitude emerging, that people say, listen, we can only move forward if we really open up and if we are more flexible, also flexible in terms of development and application of legislation, more flexible as the investor. Maybe we should also be more open for more venture capital type of thinking. And that's also something that the government is looking at. So I think this whole change in attitude is also very nice to observe. Thank you very much. Thanks.
All right.
And see you soon. Based on all the work that's been done and all the investigations, one of the entrepreneurs that we met is not just an entrepreneur, he's also a medical doctor. He's called Christian Vinkers. Just want to check if he's in the room. I can see him right now. And it triggered me because he's a medical doctor looking for solutions and then using AI to come up with RTC alert. Christian, can you just give us like a quick impression? What is it that you're doing?
Sure. Thanks, Tess, for the invitation. Very happy to be here. Can I share some slides? Is that okay?
Yes, you can. You can share your screen.
Perfect. Just making sure. Can you guys see it all right?
Yes, we can.
Well, I'm a psychiatrist and also a scientist. And the problem with a lot of medical knowledge in clinical trials is that there are many hundred thousands of clinical trials, a lot of knowledge, which is really hard to reach and really hard to disclose to the general public, to medical doctors. And there are many, many clinical trials published each day. So we have a lot of knowledge, which is not accessible to a broad public. And this is frustrating for citizens, for patients, but also for me as a medical doctor who wants to use the knowledge for the patients. And we are using AI to disclose this knowledge. And we have a unique team with AI, methodologists, epidemiologists, and medical doctors. And we are currently able to disclose full text information of 500,000 clinical trials. We have a very firm academic background. And we are really making progress to really disclose this. And how do we do that? We use Medline, which is the standard database used for all the clinical trials that are out there. And we are already able to really look at different fields, different clinical trials, different medications, to really have information about the quality of these trials. And if we disclose this information and we can make this easy to access, you can really help patients, doctors, to get the latest knowledge, to see whether there are gaps in the knowledge, to see whether they should change their decisions, but also for patients looking for information on what is out there. So we think that this is really something that is an unmet need, and that's why we started RCT Alert, and we are very hard in progress to work on it to make it even better. So that's why I'm very happy to be here and to tell you a bit about it.
Thank you so much. I can imagine as a doctor you must be busy too. So indeed, I'm looking forward to see where there's new connections. Is there anything in particular where you say, okay, this is what we need right now, or you're open to any type of stakeholder or who wants to connect?
Well, I think that we're open to any connection because we think that collaboration is very vital. At this moment, we're really developing models and really looking at different directions, collaborating with institutions for guidelines. And the thing that we're looking for is really developing our AI models on all the data that we have. So the medical knowledge we have the AI knowledge, but we really lack, and that is something that you refer to. As a busy medical doctor, it's hard to run the models myself, and we have the knowledge, but we need the people in order to really progress. We're getting there, but we could speed it up even more.
Thank you very much. And this is what I believe is so important. Like you mentioned as well, there are many stakeholders that you can work with. So actually there's another multi-stakeholder network around you too. Obviously, Katinka is already working on that for a while, but we're more than happy to discuss with you what are the profiles of the stakeholders that you need to get together, and we'll follow up on that. So thank you so much for your time. Know you're busy, but this is a good trigger again. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's one remark from my side about this one. You already
Next time you said please. Now you didn't say please, Paul. That means you can't talk.
Oh, please.
Nee, I'm kidding.
Please. No. But you already introduced me as the chairman of the Personalized Health Catalyst Foundation. Just if you allow me to say 30 seconds about it. This is a multidisciplinary, very diverse group of people, medical specialists, technical companies, data scientists, pharmaceutical companies, government. And Christian is part of this network. Actually, most of the speakers we have today, including Katinka and Ron, who you will hear soon, they're all members of this network. And it is fascinating to see that almost every problem that emerges can be addressed, or at least can be discussed with people in that network. And then you see the power of combinatoric innovation. And that's where I think that we as a Catalyst Foundation, and we're an alliance, we are so happy to be also part of this ValueTrack ecosystem, because we share the same principles and we see in practice how it works. So we have many projects we have been executing, and every time we make full use of this multi-perspective approach, and I really see what it in the practice can deliver, and I hope that, and I expect that we will see the same happening with the ValueTrack.
Thank you. So indeed, bring them on, Ron Herings.
Yeah. Thank you for having me here.
Welcome.
I'm indeed also one of these members of the Healthcare Alliance. My name is Ron Herings. Oh yeah, I have not to touch it, sorry. I'm CEO of 3 companies. These companies are working together. It's a collaboration between a data sharing platform. We collect data from millions of patients, which we use actually for study drug effects. These drug effects, they can be used to improve actually the efficiency, the effectiveness and safety of drugs in practice. That's done by the Pharma Institute. It's a collaborative which also works together with 9 European countries, in which we follow up actually new drugs, new treatments, for instance, also the vaccines, new vaccines. And we want to know whether they work, whether they don't work, or whether they should be personalized. And maybe from that perspective, you should think of that. We never asked the question yet, why should we personalize? We do personalize because the trouble is if we don't personalize, we waste actually sources.
Yeah.
And suppose we would have personalized the vaccinations in the Netherlands, we would have saved hundreds of hospitalizations, thousands of people not needing to go to the hospital, not dying, because the question of personalized medicine is who should be treated first. And that's what you actually do in healthcare and drug development, that you want to know who should be treated with the drugs and who should not be treated with the drugs. And these organizations you can use to develop algorithms. These algorithms you want to actually to have implemented in practice.
Yeah.
And therefore we have another organization. We need an organization which can bring actually the algorithms which you develop in a science environment with big data to the patient. And to do that, you of course have another law, another regulation which you have to deal with, which is the MDR. On the other side, we have to cope with the GDPR. So the data are in a separate organization, and the separate organization has to deal with and the GDPR and actually the MDR to bring actually new inventions to the patient. So what we actually want to do is to give access, to open this enormous platform to others, because we have the people on board from industry, from pharmaceutical industry, from the healthcare providers, so from the health insurances. We work together with thousands of GPs, hospitals, clinical laboratory to make actually that thing which is very important, which is the electronic patient dossier, in such a way that it can be etched. So it stays actually on the premises, and you make actually patient dossier. That patient dossier you can use for studying drug effects, but you can also use it for development of algorithms. You can have access to Mr. Vinkers to develop actually these algorithms. You can validate it actually in practice by using and working together with academics, because that's needed to have that MDR compliance. So we have actually what I'm talking about is an algorithm as a package insert for a drug or for a service or for a tool.
Yes.
And if you can do that, you actually can save a lot of trouble by having that personalized treatment at the right place, at the right moment, at the right patient.
Do you think this solution is really an asset that we should take care of, that we capitalize not just financially, but also from a societal perspective?
For the Netherlands, it's actually unique because you have a very large database where you can develop the algorithms. You can give access to people, which we also have ourselves, but not enough, to develop the AI algorithms needed to personalize the treatment. And you have the access to validate it actually in clinical practice with the doctors, because a non-implemented solution is worthless. So you have to implement it. It's the challenge is to let you as a person use these personalized treatment.
Interesting. Suzanne, if you hear all of this, what is your reaction to this? Are these innovations that you recognize, solutions that you recognize? Do you have anything to add with regards to opportunities you see or calls to action on this?
Yeah, I think this already depicts the conversation that we have the variety that's available. And what's also mentioned before is we actually already have everything. We have the people, we have the technology. And I truly believe it's about having the conversation together also with the decision makers to talk about how can we shape the right context to place those innovations and technologies in an accelerated way into the system, because I think this is a big bottleneck. It's a big bottleneck for innovators who commit their life with often fewer resources, working super hard to get it through. Many startups that disappear because they don't have access to it. And in the meantime, we're all waiting here, ready to how can we go to the next stage. And I think something super interesting as well is what we can, for example, learn from the COVID situation. I think with all of us, if we see like we're with the same people in this pandemic, and it has taught us that suddenly when there is a high urgency, we can create those right conditions. With the COVID pandemic, we have brought innovations in a different way with different approaches into the system, and I think there's so much we can learn from that that we could also apply for all other innovations and the way we work.
Maybe to add on that,
Yeah.
what's quite important is that because she has all these assets already in your country, is that it's a question of organizing and defining the governance. Because if you have such a system, the data, the structure, the technique is not a difficult one. To comply with regulations, you also can do that. That's actually not a hurdle. It's actually nice to have the GDPR. It's nice to have the MDR, because that actually facilitates that you can develop good and practical personal high-scale solutions. You need that. So you don't want to develop crap.
Yeah.
You want to have the good solutions at the right place. So I don't see that
because of that you can scale.
So it's actually a kind of professionalizing actually all the different elements we have in the Netherlands into an organization where give the people, the entrepreneurs, access to it, to use it.
Yeah, and if I may add, and I think dialogue between all of us is so important, because everything has a specific context, and you see the regulation is indeed, we need it because it's a trade-off between innovation, speed, time at the one hand, and at the other hand we're talking about people, and we need to protect people, we need to safeguard the security and protect them. But then we have the regulation today, and I think there is also a difference between, do we improve something that's already here, or do we have a disruptive innovation or a new business model that we're not familiar with? If something is new, then, especially then, as innovators, you're confronted with regulation that doesn't fit, and then it's for many it's almost, it seems to be impossible to break that through. And I think that's a point where we can have a dialogue with each other, so that it's not just we need the context. That's not how it works, but to talk about it and find a way, I think, to effectively communicate, so that we can see, okay, what is the current situation? What is needed to bring this further? And then have the right people to realize this and to see.
Well, I think you're one of the right people in this sense. What would your next step be? If we would say, okay, we're going to follow up on this. This is an interesting call to action. What would your next step be? Who would need to be in the room to have that dialogue?
Well, actually, this is always about quadruple aim. So you need actually to have the health insurance companies on board. You need to have the pharmaceutical companies on board. You need to have the healthcare providers on board. You need to have the banking on board, because it's a very complex issue.
Yeah.
If you look abroad, there are examples in England, in China, where they already do it, because they don't have the trouble of the laws in China, so they can make.
So we have to catch up.
Well, if we don't do it, we will be behind. So that's the truth for Europe, because if we don't learn how to work with the regulations, we will lose the battle.
Yeah, I get it. So we're going to work on this. This is a call to action.
Yes,
okay.
we have to win this battle.
And you already
for Europe.
you mentioned they're already doing it in the UK. They're doing it in China. So you have an idea on where we should go to and make it happen. So let's follow up on that call to action too. Thank you very much. And I know it's interesting because I spoke to most of you already, and there's so much knowledge and so much network out there that I'm very much looking forward to this exponential potential that we could bring to the table. And in that sense, someone who knows everything about exponential potential is Mariana. Mariana, please feel free to introduce yourself. I know you're working with RegMed XB, but there's far more based on your experience in the past with regards to innovation in general, and then focusing on healthcare as well from a government perspective, from, well, many perspectives. So please feel free to introduce yourself.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for organizing such a wonderful conference. This is what we need. I love the connection between vision and action, because I think that's the key to success, isn't it? I'm a professor at the Institute of Regenerative Medicine, University of Maastricht, and I'm the co-founder of RegMed XB. And for now, I would like to focus on it, and in discussion, I would like to take it broader, because I really believe in the power of public-private innovation. I think that's the key to success. RegMed XB, Regenerative Medicine Cross Borders, started with a big dream, with a vision. And the Netherlands was already great from a scientific point of view, but we had the vision to solve a number of chronic diseases by regenerative medicine solutions. And we are focused on translational work, so coming from science and lab work to really solutions in the clinic, and commercialization, bringing those solutions to the market. And we started out with the health foundations. They know what the real issues are. They are passionate, committed to solve diseases like kidney disease, like diabetes. And we started with that passion and that drive. And we found the best clinicians, scientists, and companies in the Netherlands, and they were focused on moonshots. We are focused on solving those problems for chronic diseases for patients. And it's a completely new way of working. So yeah, think about it. Normally you would get money as a university, you would work on a PhD research or your own research. And now all at a sudden, we were working together to solve problems for patients. And if I look at the success of RegMed XB, it's all about people who are passionate to really solve issues in healthcare. So it's not a job, it's a passion to solve it. It is about finding the brightest, the best people, of course. And another element has really been an innovative government. A government, I would almost say, like the Singapore model. And that's what happened. The Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Economic Affairs, regional governments joined us to think about solutions. And another element, Clemence Ros van Dorp is also somewhere in the conference, but she was so helpful of organizing with us a round table about solving regulatory issues. And if I look at RegMed XB, we had a really large vision of how to solve chronic diseases. And it was an all-round vision, not just, oh, give us some seed money and we do this or that. No, we really had an overall vision. And one element of that vision was, let's build a regenerative medicine industry in the Netherlands for the future. And that's why we are so very grateful that we have money from the Growth Fund to build the infrastructure for a regenerative medicine factory. And the Netherlands can potentially be #1 in the world with new business models. And here comes my call for action. We need new business models. The pharma model is a model of the past in the end. So let's build together a business model for regenerative medicine that's affordable, sustainable, and good for not just a few companies, but for all of us. That's my first call. I think we should do this also together with other European nations. The Netherlands and Flanders collaborate. Let's collaborate. So we're very open to find the right partners in Europe. And the final one is on the regulatory front, we still need to make progress. And again, if we can do this in a public-private collaboration, we will be the coalition of the winning, because the new competition is collaboration. So that's my call for action.
Thank you very much. And I think that one of the things in the ValueTrack methodology is that we always say, we don't bet on the horse, we bet on the race. So we're very happy to see our startups to become the next unicorn, but that's not our aim. Our aim is to make sure that we realize personalized medicine and treatment, including regenerative. So looking at these new business models, who would you indeed invite to the table from a European standpoint?
I would invite maybe first of all DG Research, DG Innovation, who have the capacity to give different incentives. So I think we're very fortunate with the current EU subsidy grant model, but we can use some changes there. And I think the RegMed model is the type of model, I'm not saying it's the only model, but it's a different model to create value, like you were saying already, that we can create, you know, a race where Europe is number one and do it in, you know, bring some innovation. So that's number one. The second one is I'm of course inviting companies who are startups, but also large companies who are at the front edge of their particular technology. Yes, join us around the table, because regenerative medicine is an integrative, I would say, science. So where pharma is very focused, more narrow, this is more integrative. So you need an integrative business model. So that's you know, just to start. And in particular, I think creating value is bringing the right people who are passionate, who don't look for a job, but who really want to get something done for the world. I think that's where, in the end, that's where all the value added started with what's your intention and what would you like to bring to the table. So I'm also inviting a certain type of breed who would like to make this happen.
Thank you very much. And what I really like from your story as well is that with the ValueTrack, we've also been working with students at the Erasmus. And what was really nice is that they said, this is exactly how we think. Why isn't it like that? I want to, you know, add something to the world. I want to make sure that I'm not delivering just to a corporate or just to a government. I want to make sure that my work is worth something to others too. So I definitely think that if we want to get this going, this transition happening, I think it's already in the next generation to follow up on that. So very much looking forward from your perspective as well, and to discuss this. How can we deliver opportunities to this next generation to also line up for RegMed, as you said it. I'm sorry, I first said RegMed, but that will be interesting too. So looking forward to the next steps towards October as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And also what I find interesting is that there's always an overarching kind of expertise. It's not just within the ValueTrack personalized health and treatment, or that we're looking at this. We're also looking at it in the ValueTrack, for example, which we had yesterday, talking about people flows. Mariana, can you come to the stage and tell us a little bit why the calls to action from people flows perspective could also be applied within this ValueTrack?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm honored and privileged to stand here today as well. My name is Harm. I'm the founder of iLabs Technologies and Chief Strategy Officer of Okudu. And Okudu is an identity company, and identity, it's all about people. And today we talk about people and treatment, and what I see as an overlap and also a passion of myself is inclusive identity and access to finance for all. My last trip after a long time of lockdown was to Sudan, and it's all about basic income to give everybody, 33 million people, ability to survive and then create better lives and be healthy again. What we see in people flows is for the people, how can we enable them with tools and digital trust? And we talked today about privacy and GDPR as an enabler. I think we are really creating today in Europe some key enablers for our digital transition, for people flows, for medical, and for any other industry. So we are talking about crossovers in finance or in transportation or in mobility, energy. So I think the ValueTrack shows again that it is instrumental for collaboration and for organizations and people with this passion and drive to see, okay, moonshots, yes. What can we do today in the next 3 months, and how can we make it active?
Thank you very much. Short-term and long-term vision. Thank you for sharing this. In that sense, it's also interesting, Bart, to hear a little bit more from you. How do you see all this happening? Like we said, it's speed dating, it's triggering things. Where were you triggered? And please, introduce yourself because I didn't do it.
All right, not a problem at all. Hey, good morning all. My name is Bart Delethauer. I'm with the OGC. Passionate about location. There's so much passion and enthusiasm in this room and online. Very humbling and fantastic to see so many great minds and personal stories. I loved it, so I learned a lot from it. So if you can put up just my slides here just to support me. Just a quick word on the OGC. We're a collective problem-solving body that connects the global community of experts on location and users of location attributes. So when I say location, it's the geospatial aspect. It's that place on Earth that Paul initially called the borders that he wanted to see removed. And what we deliver is open standards and best practice on how to share location information. Now, hearing the previous speakers, I feel like I come a little bit out of left field, but that's fine. If you can move to my next slide, is why do we bring in location into a personal health topic here? Well, I think here's a great example. There's medical doctors on board, and so I'm sure they know this case here on the outbreak of cholera in London, which they initially thought was airborne, until someone, John Snow, found out that the source of the cholera was actually a pump on Broad Street, and it became a very much a location issue. Health came into the OGC also quite recently, the last year and a half, good year. So it's with COVID. And so when the whole COVID stuff broke out, is where is stuff?
Yeah.
Where are the hospitals who could treat this? Where is the basic infrastructure? Where is everything? So the where component suddenly became a big equation into the health problem. So what we provide as an OGC is the level playing field for the digital transformation. We come with the open standards. We come with the best practices on how to set up an infrastructure to share location data. We already did this in the past. It wasn't in the health context, but now we really have a health group that is chaired by a medical doctor. In the past, we did how do you navigate in hospitals for people with dementia. I always struggle, just finding my way around hospitals. But so that's one of the other aspects is active aging. part of active aging has a big location component in it as well. And so that's something that we've been looking into. More recently is the ethics part of sharing personalized data, personalized health data. And I just would like to highlight here an initiative from a sister organization of the OGC. Not sure if it's sister or brother organization. Not sure if I can say this now. Is W3C's Solid initiative. And that is for individuals to control their own data. This is sort of a counter initiative to, you know, the big seven out there, the Facebooks of the world that collect your data. You're the product, but you're not in control of your own data. What the Solid initiative does is bring that data to you so that you decide what data you want to share with whom. And so that has, by the way, a location aspect in as well, is, you know, intrinsically to who we are as individuals. And so we provide with a network of organizations. Think of, you know, the biggies, the Googles, the Microsofts, and the AWSs of the world to provide us with that technology, but also the caretakers themselves, the doctors that come to the OGC and unite location with health, location with personalized health. I think the personal piece, you know, and again, it's just a piece of it, but I think the location of where we were and where, you know, things in the medical world play a role into this. Again, a little bit out of left field, but I think, and then my next slide, just a connection. Sorry to make you run there. There you go. So on COVID, this is a use case from India, where the various data points that were gathered and how, if you plot them on a map, they suddenly become, you know, one map says more than 1,000 words. And then on my next slide is we have a link with the WHO, where they're going to bring the digital health plan from 20 to 25 with 4 action items, is to promote the global collaboration. That's where we're part of UN activities with the OGC. Advance the implementation of the digital strategies. We came up earlier on, you know, how are we going to do the digital transformation? WHO is providing that framework, or wanting to provide that framework. Governance for that digital health, and then advocate the people-centered health system, again, which location provides a big component for. So I'll leave it at this. Maybe there's some question on how we can help on the location side.
What is very interesting.
Can you use the mic?
So what is very interesting is that geomedicine, actually, where you're talking about,
Yeah.
which is already in place for many years in the US, but they did it with pen and pencils. So if you can digitize this, it's actually very important not for the personalized medicine to see who should be personalized.
Yeah. That's a good point.
To see in special areas in Amsterdam, or special areas in other areas where you can see that there should be personalized, which is very much effective.
Yeah, exactly.
I love this. So.
Yeah, good point. See, this is dating. I have a new date. Yeah.
But this is like...
Sorry, can I ask a question? Or
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, because I'm very, very interested in your opinion on the following. What we see with venture building, almost compared to starting up a venture, but venture building, they are more and more virtual. So you see that they pick different locations, let's say clinician from here, let's say CEO from another place, and they decide upon that virtual venture building where they will start, enter the market, for instance. So it's a very different perspective. How do you see that?
Well, we very much live in a virtual world. We live in a new world, I think. But I think it's a tough one. Don't know if I know the answer to that question, but I think the new reality will be a hybrid model between the virtual and the real. I'm very much, during COVID, I realized that I'm very much a people's person, and that I need to connect with others to find trust and to look each other in the eye and connect and make a deal and agree on how to do something. I believe it was you, Mariana, that said, that passion, it's more than just a job. And for me, that passion is also connecting with people and sort of virtual, okay, but we need to get together as well. I don't know if that answers the question, but that was, that was my answer.
Yes. Can I please add something?
Yeah, you go first and then I go next.
Yes, dear, you may.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question, actually. And I think there are two things here. First of all, entrepreneurs, I was talking about opportunities. This is also opportunity driven, where you see the opportunities. Now we have also the skills and the tools to organize ourselves around the opportunities. So that I think is one thing. The other thing I think is very important, and that is also related to what just has been said. When people meet, things happen. Do you know exactly beforehand what will happen? No, sometimes it's also kind of discovery, emergence, and we use the word serendipity for that. And I think serendipity is an extremely important process. Serendipity is the skill to find something important by coincidence. And why is the skill? It is a skill to be open for it. And I think that's a very important aspect of entrepreneurs, but everyone here united around this theme and around the ValueTrack is to be open. Open for others, open for opportunities, open for things you were not even looking for, open for failures and learn from that. And I think that is, at the end of the day, I think the primary characteristic of for us all together to facilitate this process of serendipity.
I love this. Can I just say a personal note on this?
Yes, you can.
So thank you, Paul, for introducing me to the word serendipity. I knew what it was, but now it just reminds me why I like to go to old vinyl record stores.
Yeah.
Is to find that. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I need to go there. It's to find that, find a new funk album from the 70s by accident. Oh, Paul, I made a new friend.
Very good.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, well, call it whatever.
That's the movie. So that's true. What I very much like too is that one of the networks that is out there is called Ideas from Europe. And what they really do well is that they are a broker for all these entrepreneurs. And they've been doing this for the last few years, where they invited all the member states to bring to the stage their most impactful innovator. So to raise their voice to what stakeholder networks, for what stakeholder networks they were looking. And so far, it's unbelievable how they actually spread their wings through all these member states and made those connections for these entrepreneurs. And that's something that we're gonna definitely use is maybe the wrong word, but that's a whole network that's gonna support these calls to action as well. So definitely expect like a big boost and make sure that we're really clear in what we need, because all these calls to action are going to be shared with the member states, for example, via the SME Envoice network. So make usage of these channels that are out there to spread the word, deliver the message, and get these people to get engaged. There is one more word from you that.
Yeah, what I just wanted to add to all of this, because I think we have the great ideas of Europe here in this conversation here at the location and virtually, and the coincidence is maybe it's a coincidence or it's not, and it's just because it's us that really are needed to create this value track as of now. So I don't want to wait for October, but I feel the urge to start now. And I just want to, jump on the phone and call you all to see how can we make the link to each other and see how all the data can be connected, all the initiatives. I love all the stories and let's make it happen.
So
that's my call to action. Let's make it happen. And I am open to put our solution somewhere in there to facilitate in bringing it to the patient, making sure it's connected to the clinic where needed, and everything that I heard today is something that we would love to integrate into the health practice.
Yes, this is so nice because this also sounds crazy, but you know, working in this whole network to me also means that I can talk to someone, and even though I'm not the expert, like I said, I can say, hey, but I know someone who might be able to help you. And you know, sometimes, and it even feels like you can be Santa Claus without having anything in your pockets, but being able to connect people that have these great ideas is something that we definitely need. Yeah, now it's becoming really personal.
Thanks, Paul is coordinating the coincidence. I think that's it. Then we have to circle back to round.
For now, and this is where, to me, it's. I know everybody is always working on these things, like you said. How do we get these things together? From a ValueTrack perspective, we're applying the methodology. We haven't been able to automate it just like that. And unfortunately, you know, we also want things to move faster, but we're supported as a whole group by the Ministry of Economic Affairs, which is great. Even with the European Commission, we're working on this. But what is also important is that we've got organizations to join in who make these collaborations tangible, who will register what kind of connections are being made based on what reasoning. What is the reasoning behind these connections? Because most often this makes it possible to copy paste, and it sounds crazy, but copy paste an system, an eco network of people to another place. So what we've seen happening is that we've been on an innovation mission to India with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Netherlands, with the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Policy. And what happened there is that some of the solutions we have in the Netherlands and in Europe can't be brought to market, but we could get the whole stakeholder network in India and open the doors for these entrepreneurs to deliver their solution, but also learn how that was done. So they understood what were the conditions to make this happen. And therefore, it was like an advice to some of the stakeholders in the Netherlands. If we would do it like this, it might work. Please apply this to the context of the Netherlands. And it was a step forward for these people to learn from these insights and apply these learnings. So there is an accelerator in all these connections. It can't work that we suddenly, you know, bring all these solutions to market in one go because we changed the GDPR, but there are ways to inform each other and advise each other in a positive way and help open doors to get to the next level. And one of the interesting things that came to mind, or not came to mind, and the other connection that was made was with the Open Innovation Platform. And somebody who can tell you more about that and who said, hey, Tessie, can we not work together as well? Because we have something to offer and it's open source and we can deliver on that promise in a way we can add to deliver that value. Neil Smith, please, can you take over and introduce yourself to this group?
Great. Thank you, Tess. Thank you for the introduction. Is sound coming through okay?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Hi, Neil Smith, and delighted to be here today. Some super interesting conversations and a lot of positive energy. My camera over here, so I'm not looking past you all the time. So I'm Neil Smith, Irish, always been tech entrepreneur from Dublin to Berkeley to Bell Labs to startups in London. I've had a scale up in Holland, grew from 15 to 200 people. And for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been focused very much at how we systematically help society, solve a lot of the challenges that are coming our way. Technology and its implications are going fast and getting faster, but our ability to solve them is not. So busy 4 or 5 years helping a lot of startups in AI and blockchain space via Yes Delft, non-profit, non-equity incubator. And COVID last year was the trigger to launch a new initiative focused on open innovation. and how we can create a platform so actually we can collaborate much more effectively around the innovation and the challenges that we face. Because if I reflect on some of the comments earlier today, from other comments from Paul and Susanna, we do need to be able to put, if you like, the change we want to achieve central, right? So not, so we come to that shared understanding of what we want to change from where we are now to where we're going to. So you put, you start off with that shared change you want to achieve. And then around that, you build the people, organizations, government, knowledge institutions who want to contribute. And you use that shared understanding and that shared community as a base for coordination and collaboration as you make progress towards realizing the goals of a challenge. So, that for me is fundamental, because if you look at an organization nowadays, most organizations, when they want to say work on a portfolio of challenges, is that it tends to be done in a very, if you like, homegrown way, whereby they either manage the list of challenges via spreadsheets or they put up a website, there's a custom one. But that all means that the innovation landscape becomes very fragmented. Everybody's doing their own things. It's hard to have visibility across them. It makes it very hard to share best practices. It's hard to find the right people to solve the challenges. It's hard to contribute if you as a citizen want to, have some talent and capability you want to bring in to help improve it. So I think we need to first of all try and get to that common base whereby there is, if you like, a challenge-centric platform. So not, a Slack or Discord or Teams or Excel spreadsheet approach. But no, we create an information platform that is from the ground up focused on challenges. So we really can put, if like, this mission-driven, goal-driven approach of the change we want to achieve central to the whole approach, to how we're working together. So that's the first observation I have when I hear about, the kind of conversations today. The second observation is that I think we also need to get much better at finding each other. So like a marketplace for challenges. There's an awful lot of very good things going on, but that effort and energy is often fragmented. And there's a real structural challenge in how to actually connect, people working on a particular topic systematically, and how to find people to connect in. So we're also, beyond creating, if you like, a first version of the platform to manage all these challenges, we're also going to be launching, if you like, a marketplace for challenges where people can have their own public or private spaces and then share a wider community. And that'll be a SaaS offering. And the third thing is, I think such a platform, if you really want to enable society to deal with the challenges that are coming our way, is that we need to do this in an open, public, good way. So the name currently for the Open Innovation Platform is Cherry Twist. It's fully open source. You can go look at it in GitHub if you're any developers in the room. But it's also backed by a non-profit foundation. And that foundation has the mission to actually create, if you like, a shared public good for basically challenges and how we collaborate together on them. Because I truly believe that unless we change our behaviors from being organization or activity centric to actually putting the goals, the change that we want to achieve in the middle and really working towards them with all of our energy, only then can we really unleash the kind of the change, realize the kind of changes we want to do and take away borders, because borders don't just exist between countries. Borders exist in many collaborations between individuals and corporations, or corporations to corporations, or government agency or ministry to another one. We need to find a way to reduce those borders in every way, shape, or form. So we're very busy with creating, if you like, trying to create this open public good for how we collaborate on it. Something like ValueTrack is absolutely perfect therein, because that is also essentially a mission-driven approach where you're trying to gather the people, in a shared direction to where you want to go towards. And I can just be plugged straight into, as a core element of how people are collaborating.
So Neil, we're speaking about open innovation, but this is like an open invitation to bring our calls to action to you, because I think like Susanna mentioned, there are like 70,000 people within Siemens Healthineers make use of them. This is where Paul is saying, I've got this whole PHC Catalyst network, make usage of all this knowledge and ideas and resources that people have behind them, because this is what I think is ultimately the transition that we're going through. Everybody realizes that you can reach your professional goals, but it might mean that your personal goals are not going to be achieved because there's still a lack of healthcare, or not everyone has access to healthcare, and it doesn't make you happy. You don't have clean water, doesn't make you happy. You're afraid of all the other threats that are out there. So if you want to achieve happiness in a sense, that means that your personal goals and your professional goals have to be an integrated thing. And this is why I believe that if people indeed have that passion to change things based on these two ambitions or two goals, then they will open the network to gain access to resources. So I think all of us actually are all into this. And if we're talking about continuity, where you said I want to start it now, fully agree. So Neil, next week, you and I will be, putting all these calls to action in, prepare it in the open innovation platform. And then we will also get back to you and ask for your input. And before October, we'll have held sessions, and everybody can obviously open up their networks to do this.
Yeah, so important people are. Yeah.
Please go ahead, Neil. I will follow.
No, Paul, I'll leave the phone to you.
I want to say one thing, and that's also why this topic is so important: personalized healthcare. Because when we talk about personalized medicine, it really requires a systems change.
Yes.
We have spent quite some time on regulatory issues, but I think it was also mentioned by RegMed. It's also about new business models. It's also changing the financial system. It's about changing the ICT systems, the data systems. It's changing cultural systems, and that's why we need so much this approach, because it is an interplay between various systems, all of them in transition. Yeah, and that's why we need each other so badly.
And it sounds very simple, but the simple act of putting the challenge central changes the conversation. It really does, and it changes behaviors and how people are collaborating. And if we can get certainly very closely with ideas for Europe over the coming period to get even the outcome of this session fully captured in a shared environment where everybody can see it, and people of course have control. They can choose to make information public or private. That's their choice. But the more people make public, and the way they connect into each other as a sort of like a marketplace, really should help, I hope, truly hope, in both changing the conversation and in dealing with the fragmentation of a lot of our energy and talent as society in solving these really crucial problems.
Yeah,
I like it.
If I may add something as well. Neil, I love what you said, and I completely agree with all the things you've said. It's about mission driven. It's about what is the purpose, and that's also what I mentioned earlier is, what is the impact we want to make, and what truly matters. And we need all of us as a team working together. But eventually it's about people who are suffering, people who are in pain, people who are still healthy, which we want to prevent from pain, all the people who don't have access to everything. We're here because we're extremely lucky to be in this position, living in this place in the world, having access to all those resources. And I think we all have a responsibility to think, how can we help as many people in our lives as possible? And how can we also take responsibility from that? And yes, we need each other, but the change already starts with yourself. What can you do today with your gift in the world to do something for another? And that might mean that one person is helping one person, and another person has a gift to maybe not focus on one person directly, but focus on a different level in the system to change something for 50 million people. Both are needed. There's no difference. We need this everyone, and that is, I think, the beauty and also what brings it together, why we want to work. And we have all those challenges, but if we work from passion, if we do what we love because it matters to us, we want to do this because it matters.
We're gonna do it, Suzanne. We're gonna do it. That's what we just decided today. And this is about helping people. Arjan just helped out his mom because her car broke down, so that's why he was a little bit later. But taking it back from a global level to also more regional level, I showed your slide from TechLeap focused on health innovation. What was your experience? We just discussed the fact that we might have a solution to provide entrepreneurs with a to align the rules specifically to their dossier or their case. So we're definitely going to look into that. And you explained to me that it's not just MDR, there's more going on, and you would like to jump on the train too of this ValueTrack network to see if we can indeed close that gap between these entrepreneurs and the solutions out there for them to free up the road for their development and their implementation.
That's right, Tess. And first of
Sorry,
all, apologies.
did I just tell your whole story?
My language, yeah, and mothers come first, I'm afraid, you know, so it was a bit late. But great to be part of this conversation. And let me just, and obviously I missed the context from the first hour, but it sounds like it's been a very animated and passionate conversation so far. So it's great to be part of this. TechLeap, for the people that don't know, is a non-profit organization funded by the Ministry of Economic Affairs. Basically, the main purpose is to help scale-ups in the Netherlands to provide better access to either capital, to talent, or international markets. And the third component is access to technologies. And that's the team that I'm part of. So the technologies team looks not only at scale-ups, also at how knowledge gets, what the origin of knowledge is. So universities, how that spins out into startups and scale-ups. And we help those institutions to I guess, get a shorter and easier access to market and to impact. Now, part of that program that I'm running is called a bottleneck program. And I've been part of the AI coalition in the Netherlands. I've been chairing the working group for startups and scale-ups there. And part of that, part of those activities was around trying to identify the bottlenecks for AI startups and scale-ups. Now, particularly the focus was there on health AI startups, and we noticed that they run into a lot of different bottlenecks and problems. So it's much broader than just MDR, like Tess was saying. It can be around access to data, for example, for hospitals. It can be around negotiating your IP from universities, but it's also about regulatory barriers that they face. In particular, the feedback that comes back to us from the startups is that it's a very costly and lengthy process to do that. And I think this forum for me is really an opportunity to dive into that regulatory area and explore a bit better on the exact reasons of why it is that it is so lengthy and it is so costly, particularly for startups and scale-ups. So for me, this is an excellent collaboration. There's two things, just Eva, moving forward that I'm looking into, because we noticed that early validation for startups and innovations in health is incredibly important. And what we see now is that there's a lot of push from technology, and there's a lot of value that's being created, but it's not really well integrated into the system. So startups often go a long way, try to develop their proposition, but really struggle to implement it in the end in the system, in the health system itself. So early validation is very important. And once we've done that, if we've made those selections of startups that can actually have a huge impact, the next challenge is to really scale them up fast into the system. So the next challenge is really around scaling innovations from startups into the healthcare system. So that's what I'm all about, and keen to explore with any of you to make that happen.
That's really nice. Thank you so much. I think that means that there's a connection too. What I very much like is that someone who was here yesterday working, and I have to check it because this is obviously all digital, working at the underwriters laboratories. They just said that they have a lot of databases filled with rules, all on health. So they have offered to link with us as well. Sorry, I'm looking at Alex. You can't see that, but he's here in the room. So this is nice because they can then also be part of this to see how we can make this work. And what we discussed earlier as well is that the Netherlands are quite strict with regards to regulations. In other countries, even in Europe, it might be a bit more, you know, let me say, margin for interpretation interpreting these rules. On the other hand, so that's, you know, we can be negative about it, but let's keep the positive vibe. It could also be one of the added values. If indeed in the Netherlands you get certified, then you know that on a global level you have got a unique selling point.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is exactly what it is. Okay. So
and if we are able to bring back the loop that Arjan also mentioned, back from the industries, from innovations towards policymakers where they struggle, and to cope with that and change the regulations so that the burden is taken away. Well, we have a great loop and we can stay ahead of competition and be a great marketplace for innovation.
Exactly. Yes. So we're going to do two things at the same time, multitasking or double tasking. We're going to free up the road for all of our entrepreneurs in the Netherlands, in Europe, you know, to really deliver on their dreams, because it's, like we said, it's a passion to deliver these dreams. And on the other hand, we're going to create an area where it's easier to understand what the impact of these regulations are on your specific case, but also to advise to policymakers, where is there a margin? What is the impact of your decision-making on policies?
Yeah. Can I add something, or is it?
Yeah, of course. No, we still got time. It's fine.
No,
you know, this is, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, on the one hand, can we become more specific with a call for action? Because if I look at my field, regenerative medicine, I see how the Japanese government collaborates with business to get it done. Yeah. As an entrepreneur myself, I don't believe that regulation that is complicated is helping my business to build up. It's not. If I'm scaling, I'm so busy raising money, I'm so busy getting everything done. I think I would have a call for action, maybe more focused, or take a pilot of regenerative medicine. And let's start with the best practice, because other countries, companies from other countries have an advantage. It's that simple. For in our case, from Japan in particular. Well, and partly also the US. So how can we solve it? Can we together, again, I mention it, in a public-private collaboration? Of course, I'm always, you know, ethics and you know, patient safety is always number one. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about maybe some bureaucratic rules or things that take too long. And I might be very open and very upfront. And I love to collaborate, but I would have a call for action, say, for regenerative medicine, how can we perform better? Because it's in the advantage of the whole ecosystem. So
I want to support this. Huh?
Yeah.
I really want to support. You know me, Tesha. This time I didn't ask. Sorry. I sometimes refer to this situation of what I call organized stupidity. And we have two manifestations of organized stupidity. One is that because of the rules, we cannot achieve our goals. That's one form. And the other one is people who stick to the rules, but are not able to adhere to the principles. And I think part of what we are doing here is to create the battle against the organized stupidity, which, by the way, is not just found with the government. We also have organized stupidity within the system itself, within organizations, even within ourselves as individuals. We stand ourselves in the way. So let's also unravel the problems. Where is this organized stupidity and how can we solve it together? Because at the end of the day, that's why I use this term. Nobody wants to be part of a system of organized stupidity. But it's also taking away the possible bad feeling that people have about themselves. No, it's about the things that we organize together and that we can solve together.
And maybe I can add one thing, because Paul is right. It's also the system. It's if you talk about, you know, our field, healthcare, it's of course also insurance companies and other partners. So I would like to add that. Yeah.
Yeah, but regulation is here to stay, and it's getting more and more complex. So you don't take away that burden easily. But there is a method already mentioned, that is the Sandbox method, that is available to the market. The only struggle within that is that the Sandbox method is for individual companies, individual innovation startups to discuss with regulators their struggles. And when you bring it together, you have much more force towards regulators and towards policymakers to say, this is where we're struggling, market broad, and not only for an individual company. And that can change legislation more easily than on an individual basis. We've seen that in the financial services industry. Crowdfunding platforms weren't regulated quite well. They were struggling how to become regulated, how to get a license. And if you take that by an individual company to the regulator, it's quite a struggle to get past them and to make that change happen. But if you have different companies all aiming for being a crowdfunding platform in this area, and you go to the regulator, to policymakers, well, you see that you can make a change. And that was what has happened in the financial services industry. So we can take that in this area as well. But you need to collaborate and get back to a loop from the industry to policymakers to stay ahead or to stay close to the innovation.
I would like to add one thing here, because I set up the first banking crowdfunding platform in the world, actually, with ABN AMRO. It was called Seeds. And what I think is very important here, you're absolutely right that you should not just on a one-by-one case go to the regulators. But what I found very stimulating is that the regulators themselves, where also young people work, people with interest in what's happening in the world, they also reached out to see how can we work together, not so that we are not only seen as a barrier, but that we can see as collaborators. And I think that is the mindset that we need.
Yeah.
We got that mindset, so it's going well. You wanted to say something else as well.
Yeah, well, what's actually important, for instance, for our type of company, we have a huge asset, a huge database, and the possibility actually to give access to other people to that organization. And there are many corporations or organizations in Europe who could do that. But the problem is that they fight against the law. But if you put the regulations in place, you have a competitive advantage.
Correct.
So because what prohibits actually giving access to other companies or to collaborations is that small companies like us cannot deal actually good with regulations. So if you help on that or you invest in that, questions like become less complex. So,
yeah,
but I think that's indeed, like you said, this is indeed like the loop, because we're not only going to advise the policymakers pure on those MDR regulations. Obviously, it's also with regards to policymakers, where does this development get to a grinding halt based on this? Are there any alternatives?
It is needed, because it's high sensitive information. It's high sensitive stuff actually, which you have to protect, and that is in complete Europe. It's everywhere, except for countries or organizations who do not need to have to protect their data systems a little bit. They get a competitive advantage for that. So
yeah, correct. So GDPR is one of the areas as well where you can use the same system. GDPR is
you can talk another way around it, but it's actually a gift. It's fantastic that the GDPR is in place, because therefore we can now develop things which we could not do before, because it's regulated.
Yeah.
Okay, so in line with what we all said just now, we have those calls to action. Looking forward to connect with you again, to make sure that we make them concrete, that we understand what roles do we need, what type of stakeholders do we need to deliver that to Neil, and make sure that's all in the environment of the open innovation platform. And also with regards to all the think tanks you're involved in, make sure that we use those resources. So please let me connect to you. in the next couple of days to ensure that at least we get the first instruments out there to keep that continuity, to make sure that we keep the momentum. And okay, I got it. Jelle, I just heard that you want to say something too.
Oh, so, am I? Yeah, looking. Okay, let's.
I have to do like this now.
Yeah, sorry. I have two cameras, one of in my laptop and one of my on my hire. So thank you very much for saying a little bit. My name is Jelle van der Weijden. I'm working for the Regional Development Agency in Utrecht. And we're working on two sides of this discussion. One is the entrepreneurship and bringing startups and scale-ups into this personalized healthcare field, which is a challenge, as we heard. But the other side, we also look at test beds, living labs. We work in Utrecht with the Health Hub Utrecht, which is a network of almost 50 organizations working together on social innovation, technical innovation, digitalization, and bringing real innovations to the public. And in this field, I'm also connected to the University of Utrecht, the University Medical Center, the Technical University of Eindhoven, and the Wageningen University. And we're working towards a plan for personalized preventive proactive medicine. Nice. And I think this is a transformation and we need all the help we can to come to the next level, not only from entrepreneurs, but also from the knowledge base, because I think it's a systemic, financial innovation, social innovation, all together. So it's a complex field, and I'm offering this collaboration both in Utrecht, but also with the knowledge institutes to bring this forward.
Super, thanks very much.
Okay.
I like the vibe, and although it's complex, we all agreed we need that innovation. We're gonna work together, and we're gonna make it. So I love this kickoff to make sure that we keep this in mind every time that we think back. I got the request, and in all honest truth, usually I don't really like these things, but in line with branding and la-di-da-di-da, can we please all be very happy, look in the camera so we can make one screenshot for conviction purposes, or how do you call it? And can you make sure you're all echt even... Yeah.
You want us on stage?
Yeah, or hier gewoon.
Oh.
So they're just in the camera, so they know that we're all here and we're happy, you know? Okay. These calls, we're going to go for this market breakthrough. 3, 2, 1, yay!
Yes, you're standing in front of Ron.
Oh, echt? Okay. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's always like, you know, upfront, everybody has experienced me. I'm like big chaos. I'm very sorry for that. I hope towards October I'll improve my skills, which is not really going to happen. But at least I think we've got a nice kickoff, and I'm so happy to be able to follow up with you on this. Looking forward to the next big step. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.